Namaste and welcome to Live, Love, Engage. I am Gloria Grace Rand and delighted to be with you again and bringing to you another interview with an interesting person. And I'm so blessed to be able to have the most amazing guests on the show. And this young man is no exception. His name is Francisco Oller Garcia, and he is a marketing and operations professional who works with forward-thinking consultants, advisors, and executives to design innovative group health strategies that measurably improve health outcomes and deliver a strong ROI. And within his work, he pairs his expertise in healthcare with his passion for helping others. And that's what has allowed him to actually excel as a subject matter expert in guiding employers to ideal health solutions, primarily through structuring health plans that offer the highest quality care at an affordable price. And I know that can be a challenge for a lot of companies and their employees these days. So it's great that Francisco is able to help them out. He not only transforms the idea of healthcare for employees, but he's also enhancing their company culture. He's also been recognized as a rising star by Employee Benefit Advisor. He's a deeply analytical thinker, goal-oriented problem solver, and lifelong learner. And you know what? And other things that I'll put on here, I'll probably put in the show notes, but just a talented young man. And I'm pleasure to meet you, especially I got to meet you through LinkedIn, so which is always cool to be able to connect with people that way. So welcome, first off. And Francisco, is that what you like to be called? I don't know, sometimes you have a nickname or anything, but if that works.
I like Francisco, and one of my fun facts that I like to say is from the movie Elf. Yeah. Because Francisco is a fun name to say.
Ah, okay. I like that. Very good. So I thought we'd get started a little bit in just talking about the healthcare industry and why you're so passionate about it, because I know in talking with you, we've had conversations before, and I've seen some of your talks that you have done that you have a unique perspective in particular when it comes to healthcare. So, but would you share with the audience why that is?
Absolutely. I think it's so important that when you find yourself in any line of work, right, that it speaks to your why and that it speaks to your purpose, because then every day becomes much more meaningful. It's still a job, but it's a job where you feel renewed and rejuvenated because you're doing something that has a societal impact, right? And for me, working in the healthcare and health insurance industry is directly tied to my life experience. As someone born with a physical disability, I've navigated the complex healthcare system, and it's complex in many ways, but one of the ways is that because sometimes we don't understand how to use the benefits that we're offered by our employers, it becomes kind of like this, like, it's great that we have it, but if we use it, then we may go bankrupt or we may experience other financial difficulties, right? So it's part of the work that I do every day is removing that barrier, removing the barrier of cost, but more so removing the barrier to high quality and affordable care, because by getting that care at the right time, at the right price, at the right place, then you're preventing medical conditions from getting worse and or getting ahead and getting the treatment you need to live a fulfilling, productive, and healthy lifestyle.
Well, I can definitely appreciate that, because it is healthcare, especially even right now. I mean, healthcare is on everybody's mind, because as we're recording this, we're still, I can't believe it's the middle of June already, and we have been, dealing with this pandemic, feels like forever, but the last few months. So is there anything uniquely challenging, maybe even for you, even from dealing with your employers or with your company and how they're managing dealing with the pandemic at all?
I think one of the biggest things and something that I'm a big advocate for is transparency and empathy. When you communicate, people understand that you don't have all the answers, right? Because it's an evolving situation. What we know today changes so rapidly because of we're getting all this information and we're trying to process it and we're trying to analyze it. But when we communicate with empathy and we communicate with transparency and we open an environment and we create this environment where it is a conversation and not just statements being thrown out, it makes such a difference, right? Because people want to be seen and they want to be heard and they want to be valued. And I think that's the biggest thing that's important whenever you're dealing with any sort of crisis and or challenging situation where you're kind of thrust upon. The decision is you obviously have to be very tactical and very careful and very strategic in how you approach it. But as you do that, communicate and be honest and be transparent, because I think that one of the most challenging things is if people don't understand where you're coming from, then that makes it hard to understand your point of views and why you're taking the actions that you're taking.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you're mentioning misunderstandings, in particular with communication, because as I mentioned earlier, we connected through social media, and that can be a really challenging place sometimes for communication, because there often is a lot of miscommunication sometimes that's out there. So how can people use social media as a catalyst for really developing deeply meaningful relationships and not having it be just a place where people are, spreading misinformation?
That's that's a it's a thought-provoking question, right? Because the when we think about the premise and the purpose of social media, it's to facilitate the connection of people through, doing away with the usual challenges of distance or industry or job function or any other, thing that would prevent us from interacting with someone. So that's kind of to give a high level view of what I'm going to talk about next. And I think you have to communicate with purpose and you have to communicate with intention, right? If you see a very interesting point of view or a very interesting post that somebody does, comment in such a way where it's not just one sentence, right? My golden rule for commenting on social media is more than 2 sentences and to put a question at the end, because then you're creating a conversation. It's not just this like, here's this information, but here's this information. I'd like to know your thoughts on it, or let's build off of this, right? And it's also very mindful to be that when we're on social media, we kind of have to have a heightened sense of respect and a heightened sense of communicating, because we don't have the advantage of being able to expand upon a point if somebody doesn't ask us to, right? So we have to be very mindful and thoughtful about what we talk and what we say. But at the same time, it's this like playground for creativity and innovation and thought and meaning and purpose. And the more you nurture it, the more you can grow it, and the more you will find your life renewed, right? Because for me, and I always love to say this, is our lives are made richer by the people we meet and the stories we hear. And social media is one way where we can do that every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, not even, certainly right now, the world has moved online in a big way, and social media is a good part of that. But even when things are not quite so challenging, social media is clearly here to stay. It's going to be a way for us to connect. And I'm grateful because it has really allowed me to meet people from all over the world, and people that I would not have had the opportunity to do in necessarily, or at least not as easily. And so when it is used for good and when it's used for creating authentic relationships, I think it is an awesome tool. So, and I have seen like some of your posts, and I do appreciate the thought that you're putting into those comments, because yeah, too often people will just be like, oh yeah, I agree, or yeah, that's a good point, and then they leave it at that. But I love the idea of being able to really expand on that conversation, and then make it a conversation by asking another question, because you do that in person with someone too, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Have you found any, though, challenge sometimes still in using social media, maybe, that, or like, how would you, maybe what other advice would you have for someone, maybe some mistakes you've seen people make, other than, like, just like a one sentence reply?
Absolutely. I think the not the biggest mistake, but the biggest hurdle that we have to overcome is, and I face this, is that we sometimes say, what do I have to say? What meaningful piece can I add to this post, or what meaningful say can I talk about today as a post, right? And for me, facing this, and I faced this about like a few months ago, when I was starting to get active on social media. And the way that this is kind of my strategy, and the way, kind of revealing like a little bit a secret behind my the way that I work the engine behind my brand, is pick one day a week and pick a topic for that week, right? For me, it's been Gratitude Sundays. And Gratitude Sunday, you've been a part of one or two, I believe. I've tagged you in it. And what Gratitude Sunday was my way of showing recognition, appreciation, and gratitude for all the people that I had met with throughout, that week or the week before, and showing explicitly the impact they had on me. What I have noticed and what I've learned is that when you champion people, people want to champion you. And I think that's the biggest thing, when we're starting out in our careers, or even in our personal lives, right? We sometimes think that we are alone in this journey, that we have this big burden on top of us.
Right.
But the truth is people want to be there. They just kind of want to know how. And through this initiative, and the power of LinkedIn is that by me tagging that person, they get visibility into my community, and I get visibility into their community. So it's always about finding ways to drive reciprocal value. And if you can do that on social media, then you're well on your way to success. But start with just one time a week and one topic, right? When we think about the topics that people like to talk about, leadership, authenticity, gratitude, appreciation, these are topics that you can expand upon. You can find articles online, and you can put your own 2 cents about it. And you have something that people understand, because when people see your values, who you are, what you stand for, it makes such a difference in all the relationships you make, because you've connected on a personal level and not just on the surface.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love that. And yes, I did see that, that you had tagged me. So thank you for that. But I love the gratitude. And it's interesting, because I was actually talking about gratitude this morning on Facebook. So because I think it's so important that the more we show others gratitude, it does then come back to you. So I love that you're doing that. One of the things that I think, especially though, in particular, like entrepreneurs, and I think a lot of people I deal with are entrepreneurs. My clients are entrepreneurs, and I'm intending that people listening to this are also entrepreneurs. Especially people who are, well, I think it doesn't even matter if you've got a small business or you've got a large business. Sometimes you're going to have moments of self-doubt. So how do you deal with that? How have you found to manage it or corral it, or what do you do about it?
I think the biggest thing that when it comes with challenging times is that they steer us away from what we know and from what we are confident in, right? Even the things that we are really, really good at, we'll start to kind of like, it's like that little sprout of doubt will kind of just like balloon quickly, right? And
Yeah.
one of the strategies that I've used is to ask, it depends on the situation, but one of them is to ask myself a question, because then I'm not leading myself down a path of just assumption, right? And it can be any kind of question, but I think the questions that drive the most value and that help us reset our mindset towards a positive place are questions like, what is one thing that I'm grateful for today? What is one thing that I'm looking forward to this week if it's the weekend? And then with these things, we can start to kind of get momentum. In other situations, another strategy I've used is sometimes we feel kind of that the idea is too vague or that the path isn't clear, right? So then when we start writing it down and we look forward and we reason back and we create a path and we create little digestible pieces, right? Goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, and we put deadlines, not deadlines, but like time frames to them.
Yeah.
That can get us also on a path. But it's also important to, and I think this is something that we must be very cognizant of, is that plans are evolving documents that change, right? And there's no drawback to having to adapt and pivot as you gain new information, because nothing is set in stone. I mean, there's some things that are set in stone, right? There's some eventualities in life, taxes and those are other things.
Right.
When it comes to planning, the beauty of it is that as we go on this journey of discovery, we learn new information, and with that information we can latch onto a new trajectory that can yield even more than we thought originally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that self-doubt is definitely something that comes up, but I do like the idea of gratitude. And one thing that I've even in coaching my clients, I've always reminded them to keep a record of like client testimonials, so that when you have those days where you're like, I don't know, you're just like, I'm not sure I'm good enough. And then you go back and read, and it's like, oh, wait, I did help them do this, and I did accomplish that. And it can go a long way towards lifting your mood, because I know for me, I definitely think that having a positive mindset is super important. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know, especially because you've dealt with some challenges in your own life, and I think one of the ways maybe that you, I think, have overcome it possibly has been through mindset work. So why do you think positive mindset is so important?
Definitely. So to kind of give you like a little bit of background, so I was born with a physical disability, and basically what it means is that I'm in a cool chair, which makes me possible to say fun puns like, no matter where I go, I'm always on a roll. But and besides that being a funny pun, it shows the value of perspective, right? Like, I was born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I went to college in Rhode Island, which, if you can imagine, wheelchair, Rhode Island, snow, blizzards, all that fun stuff, right?
Yeah, it's not going to go well together.
But what it taught me, right, is that what we don't know can be our greatest asset, right? And that's part of that mindset thing, is because we don't know something, it's not a detractor, because we're going into it with this yearning to learn, and we want to learn all of it. At least that's kind of my style, right? When I don't know something, I want to know every single little thing about it. But at the same time, as a person with a physical disability, one of the things that I've been very aware of is that in life there are no limits. There are only opportunities and possibilities. And by that I mean is my path, what I do, may not be the same as others, but it leads me to different perspectives and to different ways. And ultimately, it's not what happens to you in life, but how you react to it that matters. And that's one of my favorite quotes from the Greek philosopher Epictetus.
Awesome. Now, I know that part of what we talk about occasionally is offering like practical advice from a spiritual perspective. So um, I understand like Providence College is, I think, a Catholic college. So how did your faith help you maybe with your challenges, or helping you even cultivate a positive mindset?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. And what it has done is, one thing is that it has instilled in me a desire to give back and to really live a purposeful life. And part of that is the understanding that no matter what, our time on this earth is limited, right? Because
Right.
that's just the nature of life for human
Yep.
beings. So what that has guided me towards is that in everything that I do, I want to do something positive, right? And that manifested itself. And when I looked at the year 2020, I set 3 themes for myself, not goals, but themes.
Mm-hmm.
And number one was to be a charismatic and collaborative partner in everything that I did and
Mm-hmm.
do. Two, to be a champion of lifelong learning and courage. And 3, to build community. And in those 3 themes, because they're kind of touching back upon what we said, right? There are things that I can accomplish every day. There are things that I can use as little victories to drive me to bigger victories. Because what is a breakthrough if not the accumulation of all the knowledge we have gained from previous attempts that did not go the way we thought? That's
Right.
one aspect of it. And then the other, from my undergraduate education, is being very reflective and very introspective and
Mm-hmm.
very, asking questions, right? Like that practice is deeply centered in a very spiritual belief of going beyond myself. And to kind of touch a little bit upon something we discussed, is self-doubt is something that will be a constant throughout life. But
Right.
when we have a why that goes beyond us, then we find the fuel every day to rise above the challenges.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when we're kind of wrapping up here, I would like to ask you one last question, which is, um, what advice would you have for people who are dealing with challenges in their life, other than what we've talked about? I know we've kind of talked a little bit about that already, but is there anything else, maybe any other important point you'd like to make?
Absolutely. When we think about life in its simplest form is a series of challenges that we get better handling. But if we look at those challenges as opportunities to grow and
Mm,
to thrive, then we've unlocked a secret sauce. And that is why mindset and intention are so important, is because that is the groundwork for everything. But then
mm,
if we combine that with purposeful action, then we truly are on to creating unstoppable momentum.
mm.
And if there's one thought I would like to leave with everybody today, is my favorite quote from the writer of Winnie the Pooh, who says, "You're braver than you believe, and stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think."
I like that. I always loved Winnie the Pooh. That is awesome. Say that one more time. I want to make sure people really hear that, really hear it.
Absolutely. You're braver than you believe, and stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think.
Mm, awesome. I love that. Thank you so much. Before we go, if people want to be able to learn more about you, and what would be the best place for them to be able to connect with you? How can they find
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always excited to meet more individuals and to really be impacted and influenced by you. And if there's something that I always like to say, is let's make today extraordinary for others and ourselves.
you? Awesome. Great, great advice. Thank you so much, Francisco, for being here. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. And thank you, everyone who's listening and watching. I really appreciate you as well. And until next time, I am Gloria Grace Rand. And as always, I encourage you to live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically. Yeah, gotta just do that real quick because I went to other screen and I wanted to come end on this screen, but it's all good. So take care, everyone.